All right, let's talk about a powerful tool that, believe it or not, is probably already sitting on your computer right now: Bash scripting. Now, I want you to forget any image you might have of scary, complicated code. Just think of this as a way to teach your computer how to do all your boring, repetitive tasks for you automatically. So, let's dive in.
Here's the game plan. First, we're going to talk about why this is a superpower you'll actually want. Then we'll learn a few essential words of its language. After that, we'll write our very first script, give it a brain so it can make decisions, and finally, we'll see how the pros use these exact skills to solve some really complex problems.
So let me just start with a quick question. Are you tired of doing the same digital chores over and over? You know, the same clicks, organizing the same files day in and day out? Yeah? If you're nodding right now, you are in exactly the right place.
And that brings us to your automation superpower. I want you to think of Bash as the bridge between telling your computer to do something once and teaching it how to do that same task for you forever, whenever you want.
So why even bother learning this? Well, because it's not just for tidying up your own files. It's actually a cornerstone of modern technology. It's used to manage servers, it's at the core of how software gets built and released, a world we call DevOps, and honestly, it's a critical skill for tons of high-demand jobs in cloud computing and system administration.
To use this power, though, we first need to learn how to speak the language. And the best way to think about the command line is like you're having a direct conversation with your computer. And we're about to learn our first few words.
Okay, first things first, a quick clarification. You're going to hear the words shell and bash a lot. Just think of shell as the general name for that command line world. Bash, which actually stands for Born Again Shell, is just the most popular, most powerful version of that shell. It's pretty much the standard everywhere, and it's what we're going to focus on.
Now these commands right here, these are the fundamental verbs of our new language. With PWD, you're basically asking the computer, hey, where am I right now? With LS, you're saying, show me what's around here. And with CD, you're telling it, go over there. It's that simple. With just these few words, you can navigate your entire computer without ever touching your mouse.
All right, so we know a few words. Now let's do the fun part and string them together into our first sentence, or in our case, our very first script. This is where we take those simple commands and build something that can be repeated.
And you know what? It's really just 4 simple steps. Number 1, you create a file. 2, you add this special little line at the top, it's called a shebang, that basically tells the system, hey, use bash to run what's in here. 3, you give yourself permission to run the file, and 4, you run it. That is it.
And here it is. This is what it looks like. Right after that shebang line, we just use the echo command to print "Hello World" to the screen. Seriously, that's it. Congratulations. You've just seen a complete working program. It might seem basic, but even the most powerful scripts out there are built on this exact same foundation.
A simple script is cool, but the real power, that comes when we make them intelligent. And what I mean by that is giving our scripts the ability to remember information, to make decisions, and to repeat actions all on their own.
The first piece of intelligence is memory. And in scripting, we get that with variables. Just think of a variable as a labeled box. We can put some data inside, like putting the name Rakesh into a box we label name. And from then on, we can just use that label anytime we need the data that's inside.
Next up, we give our script a brain using conditional statements. An if statement lets the script ask a question, something like, is this number bigger than that number? And depending on the answer, it can decide to run one set of commands or a completely different one. This is how scripts start to adapt to different situations.
And right here, this is the true heart of automation, the loop. If variables give a script memory and conditionals give it a brain, then loops give it tireless muscles. This is how you take a task you might have to do 100 times by hand and teach the computer to do it for you perfectly in a blink of an eye. Now, there are a few different kinds of loops, and each one is useful for a different kind of job. The for loop you see here, this is your go-to when you have a specific list of things you need to process. You know, like a folder full of files you want to rename, or a list of servers you need to check up on.
Then there's the while loop. This one's a bit different. It doesn't need a list, it just keeps on running as long as a certain condition stays true. This is perfect for tasks like, hey, while a backup is still running, keep checking its status every minute.
And its total opposite is the until loop. This one runs until a condition becomes true. It's great for when you're waiting for something to happen, like keep trying to connect to the database until you finally succeed. The main takeaway here is that you've always got the right tool for whatever repetitive job you're facing.
So we have our building blocks, right? Variables, conditionals, and loops. But how do they actually come together to solve real problems? Let's look at a classic, really powerful example you could use today. So if you type the command ps-ef into your terminal, what you get back is this massive, overwhelming list of every single thing running on your computer. It's just a flood of raw data, and it's almost impossible to read. But this is where the true elegance of Bash just shines. We use that little vertical bar. It's called a pipe. It acts like a funnel. It takes that whole flood of data from the first command and it pipes it directly into a second command, grep, which acts like a filter. So out of hundreds of lines of chaos, we instantly see only the specific ones we were looking for. The simple idea of connecting small tools is automation in its purest form.
And this simple concept of combining tools, it's used constantly by professionals. Engineers write scripts to automatically deploy new software, to monitor the health of servers, and to run backups every single day. And when something breaks, they use these same skills to instantly search through millions of lines in a log file to find the one single error that actually matters. This is exactly why it's such a valuable skill to have.
So we've gone from a few simple words to building intelligent scripts that can solve real problems. You now have all the fundamental building blocks. So the only question left is, what's that first repetitive task that you are going to automate?